My name is Nora Bennett. I'm 27. People who only skim lives that see the furniture, a couch, a commute, the sort of quiet routines that pass for stability. The people who live in a life notice the seams, the receipts folded into a shoebox, the extra membership charges each month, the practiced patience at 2 a.m. when someone else needed a ride. For most of my 20s, I believed discipline fixed most things. If you showed up, if you kept your word, if you paid the bills on time, life would reward you with predictability. I learned the hard kind of faith, not the romantic kind, the practical kind. Marcus Riley was a project at first, then a habit. We'd been together 2.5 years. He had a charm I'd misread as ambition. Late nights editing, grand plans for content, a mirror of someone hustling. We kept separate apartments, his messy studio, my tidy one, and for the first year, everything was ordinary. Then the influencer life didn't pay the bills. Marcus told me it was temporary. His followers would catch on. A sponsor was imminent. He'd be the kind of success that matched his personality. Loud, generous, photographed. With coffee cups and beautiful light. I made payments. Not because I loved the expense, but because he said the right things and because the bills were real. 2 credit cards, phone plan, car insurance, streaming accounts, even little things. Gym, that business equipment ring light he bought and never used, the premium music subscription. Together, it was roughly $1,800 a month out of my account. Add dinners, gifts, late-night deliveries. I told myself I was an investor. Grow into your success, I'd say, and I believed it. I gave him my patience and my dollars. Looking back, that was the rubric of my mistake, my kindness measured as currency. 3 weeks ago, the text arrived on a Tuesday while I was at work. The message read casual as a weather report. Hey, love. Evelyn's roommate bailed, and she offered me the extra room for super cheap. I need this to focus on my brand without distractions. No contact for a month, okay? I'm figuring myself out. We're still together, obviously. Just need space. Love you. Evelyn Park? She was Marcus's old flame, a woman who'd been a fixture in his photos for years. Candid jokes in the comments. The sort of friendship people confuse for more in small online spheres. Marcus had always insisted they were friends. You know Evelyn, he'd say, and I'd believe him because I wanted to. But the sentence, moving in with Evelyn, landed like a stone in a still pond, and the ripples reached me. I stared at the message until the office clock blurred. She's moving in with another person. We're still together. I am the distraction. The irony tasted like old pennies. I replied, understood. Then I did the thing I had rehearsed in private but never expected to perform. Not out of malice, not exactly, but out of arithmetic and exhaustion. First, I signed into my banking app. 2 cards that Marcus used as an authorized user were deactivated, access revoked. They'd been maxed out. A $7,000 limit here, $5,000 there, and I'd been the one making minimum payments. The phone plan that still had his device on it, I removed him effective immediately. Car insurance, removed. Gym membership on my account, canceled. Music streaming, kicked off. Passwords changed for communal logins. Even the online storefront he used for business purchases lost my payment method. One by one, I severed the conveniences I'd stored in his name. It took an hour. I moved like a surgeon. Precise, a little clinical, and with the old, small fury of someone closing a chapter. Then I blocked his number. He'd asked for a month. Clock starts now. It was quiet for exactly 3 days. Then the phone lit up with unknown numbers. I didn't answer. Voicemails became the theater of other people's outrage. First, Sarah, his friend. Nora, what did you do? Marcus's card stopped working at the coffee shop and he's losing it. This is so low. Call him back. Second, a number labeled Linda, Marcus's mother. Her voice was careful, official. Hi, Nora. There's some kind of mix-up with Marcus's cards. He thinks it's a glitch. Can you fix it? He's really upset. Third, Marcus himself, but not from his phone. Nora, what the hell? My card got declined in front of everyone. Fix it now. This is financial manipulation. He sounded raw, high at the edges. You can't do this to me. Financial manipulation. I sat with the words like a bad aftertaste. He moved in with Evelyn and then accused me of manipulation. That is audacious. The best voicemail came later that evening. Marcus sobbing so loudly, even the background music bled through. Nora, please. My insurance lapsed, and I got a ticket. It's $450. I can't pay. Evelyn saw my card get declined. I had to act like I grabbed the wrong one. Please turn them back on. I'll pay you back, I swear. This is embarrassing. Embarrassing. The word lodged in me. The humiliation of a declined card in a store performed in front of strangers. That was his emergency? Maybe he should consider embarrassment before moving in with an ex while expecting me to bankroll his life. 3 days after that, they came to my door. Marcus at Evelyn's shoulder, Evelyn uneasy, Marcus looking disheveled. He wore the same expression as his voicemails, hurt, indignant, surprised that someone finally enforced the boundaries he'd tested for months. You asked for a month, he said immediately, as if he'd rehearsed the line. It's been 2 weeks. Stop it, Nora. You tanked my credit. Those were my cards, I said. You use them a lot. Evelyn chimed in with the cheap diplomacy of a roommate who'd already begun to doubt. Dude, that's rough. She was helping, I know, but... You moved in with her, I said to Marcus, and my voice was the calm in a storm, not the thunder. You moved in with Evelyn while I paid your bills. It's not like that, Marcus protested. We're just friends. I needed a place. You were fine with it. Fine, I repeated. You wanted space to focus on your brand. I gave you space and the funding. If you can't afford food because you chose to move in with your ex to save on rent, get a job. My ribs tightened with the memory of the payments, the late-night transfers, the quiet acceptance. I still don't understand how you confuse my generosity with obligation. Marcus's face collapsed into the practiced theatrics of an influencer used to an audience. I'll post about this, he said, voice small and dangerous. I'll tell them you're controlling. Go ahead, I said. Tell them how you moved in with Evelyn while expecting me to fund you. That'll help. They left. The door closed on a new kind of life that had nothing to do with romance and everything to do with accounting. Within hours, a post. Marcus's side of the story spun like a small cyclone. Financial abuse in the caption. A clipped montage of sad piano. The views were small at first. Comments cut both ways. Some people sided with him. I would never treat someone like that, wrote a stranger. Others, who followed both of us, smelled performative energy immediately. They asked, where's the rent receipts? Why does his lifestyle look suspiciously staged? While the internet argued, my phone kept ringing. Linda called again, this time apologetic. Nora, I had no idea, she admitted, voice cracking. He said he was earning good money. I'm so sorry. That call was quick vindication. I had receipts. 2 years of statements showing thousands spent at boutique makeup stores, dinner spots, and, glaringly, that ring light. The numbers didn't make me proud. They made me practical. I remembered a phrase Marcus had used once when he was half honest. I can get there. I'd given him the runway. The runway had become a runway for purchases. At the end of the day, I sat with the shoebox of statements on my kitchen table. The lamp made the paper look like sediment. Each charge was a small fossil of what had been expected of me. I felt both relief and a strange, steady grief. Not for money, but for who I'd been when I thought giving was the same as being loved. Outside, rain began to patter against the window. My phone buzzed with yet another unknown number. A small, private victory had a sound. A notification of a payment I no longer made appearing as a memory in my bank app. An account balance inching upward. Not closure, not even justice, just arithmetic. I set the statements aside and opened a new spreadsheet. Names, dates, amounts. A ledger for myself. If I'd been an investor, I would now call my investment what it was, a tuition for a lesson I never intended to buy. There was more to come. The silence I'd bought with the block didn't hold. The next acts would be louder. Smear campaigns. Please. A public unraveling, Fayed-Somon. But that night, the story began with a clean, deliberate severing, and with me, for the first time in a long time, the one who decided. The morning after the fight, the apartment felt heavier, like every object was holding its breath. The coffee mug he'd always used was still on the counter. The dent on the bedroom door from our last argument stared back at me like an accusation. I told myself I'd go to work, keep moving, pretend everything was normal. But by noon, I was still on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets, the taste of yesterday stuck in my mouth. He hadn't texted. He always texted. At first, I thought maybe this was good. Silence as space. But silence has edges. It cuts when you realize it's not distance, it's disappearance. That evening, I checked his location, then his Instagram, then his mother's Facebook. He'd posted nothing, but she had a photo of him at dinner, smiling. Caption, "Family night, so grateful." I wasn't tagged. The realization came slowly, like water seeping through a crack. He wasn't cooling off. He'd moved on. And then came the text, short and sharp. "Clara, I think we both need to stop pretending this can be fixed." No apology, no memory, just a verdict. That night, I packed his things, folded every shirt he left behind. Not out of kindness, out of defiance. If he could leave, so could I. When I zipped up the suitcase, something inside me broke, but not in the way I expected. It wasn't grief. It was the quiet, startling sound of release. The first week alone was brutal. Every sound in the apartment seemed to have a memory attached to it. The hum of the fridge. That night he made pasta and danced with me in the kitchen. The creak of the window hinge. The time he promised he'd never leave. It's strange how loss rewires your brain. You start noticing the smallest absences. The missing toothbrush. The silence when you say something out loud and no one answers. But by the second week, something unexpected began to happen. The quiet stopped feeling like punishment. It started feeling like permission. I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't checked my phone. No notifications. No anxiety, just me. I cleaned, rearranged, painted the wall he always said was fine as it is. It wasn't fine, neither was I. But at least now I was honest about it. When I told my friend Lila that he was gone for good, she came over with a bottle of cheap wine and a grin that didn't quite hide her relief. "Clara," she said, "you were shrinking around him." "I know," I whispered. "No, I don't think you do." Her words lingered. That night I replayed every moment. The subtle corrections, the quiet dismissals, the way my voice always softened when I spoke to him, afraid of being too much. It hit me. I hadn't lost love. I'd lost the version of myself I thought someone else could fix. So I started small, long walks, books I'd abandoned, cooking for one, and realizing that one was enough. Still, there was something unfinished, a message unsent. Because love doesn't die cleanly. It lingers in places you forget to lock. And a week later, it came back in the form of a letter, handwritten, from him. The envelope was cream-colored, slightly smudged at the edges, like it had been carried around for days before he sent it. No return address, just my name, Clara Hayes, written in his familiar, hurried handwriting. For 10 minutes, I just stared at it. My heart wasn't racing, not exactly. It was more like it had gone still, waiting. When I finally tore it open, the paper shook in my hands. The first line wasn't an apology. It was worse. "You were right, about the money." I froze. What money? Then it hit me. The savings account. The one I'd spent years building. The one he'd said we should merge when we got engaged. I'd refused, gently, saying I wanted to keep my independence. He'd laughed it off. I read on. "It started small. I just needed a little to get ahead, to cover a gap. I told myself I'd pay it back. Then I didn't. Then I couldn't." My breath caught. He had taken it. My years, my discipline. Every packed lunch, every second shift, gone. When you started asking questions, I panicked. I thought I could hide it. But when you looked at me that night, I knew you already knew, and I couldn't bear to watch you lose respect for me. I pressed my hand against my chest, but it didn't help. The ache spread anyway. "I left because I didn't deserve you. I know saying that doesn't fix anything. I just wanted you to know the truth before someone else told you." There was no signature, just a final line. "You were the only thing I ever did right, and the first thing I ruined." The room spun slightly. The edges of the letter blurred with tears I didn't mean to shed. I sat on the floor again, the same spot where I'd fallen apart weeks ago. But this time, something was different. This wasn't heartbreak, it was revelation. He hadn't left because I wasn't enough. He'd left because he wasn't. And somehow that made it easier to breathe. It's been 40 days since Liam vanished from my life, 39 of which I spent angry, and the last one realizing I wasn't angry anymore, just empty in the best possible way. The kind of silence that isn't punishment, it's freedom. That night, after reading his letter, I didn't cry. Not out of pride, just because there was nothing left to drain. I sat there, cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by all the small luxuries he'd once paid for. The ring light, the perfume, the leather bag still smelling like new. All props in the story I let him write for me. I opened my laptop and pulled up my balance. Negative numbers. A clean slate. For the first time, mine. The next morning, I drove to my mother's clinic, the one I used to mock for being too small town. She was surprised to see me standing there, resume in hand. "Are you okay?" she asked carefully. "I'm fine," I said, just tired of pretending I'm not broke. She didn't laugh. She just nodded and led me inside. 2 weeks later, I was wiping counters, answering phones, and scheduling appointments for patients who always forgot their insurance cards. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Liam called once. Unknown number. I didn't pick up. The voicemail was short. "Clara, I know you hate me. You should. But I hope you use everything you learned. Just not against yourself." Delete. I didn't hate him. I hated the version of myself who waited for validation in a transaction. Months passed. I started writing again. Small things. Blog posts about boundaries, money, and dignity. I wrote about what it costs to rebuild your worth after someone confuses it with your debt. It gained traction. Not much, but enough. Comments from strangers who said, "Thank you. I thought I was the only one." Then, one morning, I got an email from a name I didn't expect. Liam's mother. "He asked me to send this to you if something happened. He passed last month. I know he hurt you, but he talked about you until the end. Said you taught him what accountability feels like." Attached was a photo. Him, in a hospital bed, thinner, but smiling. On the back of the photo, a line in his handwriting. "You were never my burden, Clara, just my mirror." I stared at it for a long time. No tears this time either, just a strange calm. Sometimes people leave to teach you something they couldn't have said out loud. Sometimes the person who wrecked your plans gives you back your purpose. I folded the photo, tucked it in a drawer, and went to work. When my coworker asked why I seemed lighter that day, I smiled, because I finally paid off a debt I never should have owed. And for the first time, that wasn't about money.